Lester, didn't you say 15 weeks? Because this measures 23. The ultrasound wand paused mid-glide. Dr. Sam Green's voice was soft, unguarded, like he'd spoken to the screen instead of to us. Then he blinked, as if hearing himself for the first time, and the room tightened a notch. Before I go on, if stories of quiet betrayals, shocking reveals, and justice served cold are your thing, hit subscribe and tell me where you're listening from. It helps more than you think. My name is Lester Hale, 42, financial analyst turned independent consultant. I traffic in certainty. I get paid to find the number everyone's ignoring and put it in bold. Truth looks different in a spreadsheet than it does on a glowing monitor in a room that smells like disinfectant and eucalyptus, but it's still truth. We were in Sam's private exam suite just off Lexington. Not the big lobby clinic, not the concierge floor. This was the small room my friend used when he squeezed in favors. Same pale wood, same soft lighting, smaller footprint, quieter door. Getting here had been my idea. For 3 days Claire had been unwell. Headaches that hit in waves. Nausea that arrived without warning. A cramp that made her fold at the counter and tell me she was fine while she clutched the edge like a lifeline. She'd wanted tea and darkness and to sleep it off. I wanted a doctor. Let Sam take a look, I'd said that morning. 15 minutes, peace of mind. I don't need a production, she'd murmured from under the duvet. I'm just tired. Then it'll be a short appointment, I'd answered, already texting Sam. We've known each other since a charity run in Central Park. He treated a sprained ankle like it was a market close and got me back on my feet. After that, drinks, Knicks games, a quiet friendship. I'm not a man who collects people, but Sam was steady. He also happened to be one of the best obstetricians in Manhattan. He made room at lunch. Now Claire lay back on the table, scarf folded on the chair, sweater lifted. She had that careful showroom brightness she used with buyers, eyes soft, mouth relaxed, as if good news could be coaxed into being by posture alone. I sat a few feet away, jacket still buttoned, old meeting habits die hard. Sam washed his hands, pulled on gloves, and gave me the half-smile friends in professional roles use when the line between personal and clinical blurs. We'll keep this simple, he said to Claire, kindness first, protocol second. A quick look, make sure everything tracks. You've been having headaches. Just a little, Claire said. And I've been extra tired. Frequency of nausea? On and off. Sam nodded, logged the notes, then looked over at me. Last week on the phone, I'd mentioned we thought we were around 15 weeks based on Claire's app and a napkin calendar on our fridge. I hadn't expected that detail to come back like a boomerang the moment the image appeared. He spread the gel. The wand found a grainy constellation. Gray. White. Then a flicker. A curve. The room shrank to the sound of the machine. Something kicked. A tiny heel. Claire exhaled, a sound like relief rehearsed for company. Sam's body language shifted before his words did. The confident arc of his wrist flattened. The wand slowed. He leaned closer to the screen, posture narrowing to a point. In 20 years of work he'd seen 1,000 versions of this picture. I watched a man whose life is measured in certainty meet a number he hadn't expected. He traced a line. Click. Another line. Click. The monitor printed measurements, ratios, the alphabet soup of fetal biometry. I couldn't read the acronyms, but I could read Sam. He spoke without looking away. Lester, didn't you say 15 weeks? I felt Claire turn her face toward me on the crinkling paper. Sam's next words landed before I could answer. Because this measures 23. Silence, the kind you only get in rooms designed to swallow sound. The hum of electronics, the tick of the vent, the tiny tremor that started in Sam's hand and stopped when he braced the wand against his knuckles. Claire laughed too fast. Machines are dramatic, she said, light spilling over the edges of her words. We came for a quick reassurance, Sam. I only found out a little while ago. Those tracking apps, honestly, they guess half the time. Sam's eyes didn't leave the screen. He swallowed, blinked, recalibrated his tone from friend to physician. When he finally looked at us, the kindness was still there, but the softness had edges. "The baby looks healthy," he said first, and I could tell he chose that sentence on purpose. "Heart rate is good, movement is good. But the biometric age is not 15 weeks. The measurements are consistent with 23. Claire's smile held a beat, then faltered. 23 what? Weeks. He kept it even. "We'll confirm with multiple parameters." He took them. Head circumference, femur length, humerus, abdominal circumference, clicks, dots, lines. Each added to a picture that wasn't going to blink into a different truth. The machine printed quietly. Sam tapped the keyboard with the care of a man stepping around a sleeping dog. "Sam," I said, "because if I didn't put my hands on the facts, they would put their hands on me. What's your estimated due date off this?" He checked the wheel, a motion older than the software, anyway. "Approximately 17 weeks from now." Claire's inhale stuttered. "That's no. I thought we were early second trimester." Sam's face said, "I wish we still were." "I can remeasure," he offered gently. "But multiple markers align." He glanced at me, and in that glance was everything that makes friendship heavy. The memory of last week's call, my casual about 15, the knowledge that I keep calendars in my head the way other men keep song lyrics. He knew I was doing math already. He also knew I would not speak it here. 23 weeks ago. I didn't need my phone. No calendar. No app. 23 weeks ago I was in London, Canary Wharf by day, Mayfair at night, walking boards through a risk model that made them uncomfortable and therefore valuable. After London came a cascade of flights. Seattle, San Francisco, back through Chicago. Hotel keys in my pocket like foreign coins. I was home in short bursts that felt like layovers. 23 weeks ago, the timeline wasn't a blur. It was a ledger. Claire's fingers tightened over the towel. "Maybe the machine's off," she said, voice too bright to be believed. "Or it's measuring something weird. Those online forums are always talking about anomalies." Sam set the probe in its cradle and handed her another towel. He spoke to her as a doctor, not to us as a trio of people used to brunches and box seats. "The baby is measuring consistently at 23 weeks. That's not an anomaly. That's a developmental stage." Claire stared at the ceiling tile like it could prompt a different answer. I only just started showing." "Everyone carries differently," Sam said, and even that landed with the weight of a closed door. He printed the images, no fanfare, no keepsake frames, and slid them to me face down. "I'll upload the full report to your portal," he added, voice back to neutral ground. Then, softer to me, almost an apology for the earlier slip, "We'll run the standard labs today, too. I can fit those in." "Thank you," I said. It came out steady. Numbers are calmer when spoken aloud. Claire pushed herself to sitting, paper crackling like far-off thunder. We can come back another day," she told herself more than us. "Different machine. Second opinion." "We can do a second opinion," Sam said, and if he heard the plea inside her words he didn't show it. "But it won't change the measurements." He stepped toward the door, professional instinct offering us a privacy that felt too late. His hand paused on the handle. He looked back at me, not the doctor looking at the husband, the friend looking at the friend. "I'm here," he said quietly. "For both of you." The door clicked shut. The room exhaled. The monitor went to sleep. Outside, the city carried on believing in its own noise. Claire pulled the scarf into her lap and smoothed it like a script. "Say something," she whispered. "Please, Les. You're scaring me." "I asked for peace of mind," I said. "We got the truth instead." "That's not fair." She tried to smile and couldn't land it. Sam misspoke. He remembered wrong. You told him 15, sure, but apps are off, bodies are weird, and the measurements aren't an app," I said. She blinked rapidly. Her eyes shone, but not in the way that makes a room glow. "You're acting like a spreadsheet can tell you who we are." "I'm acting like timelines matter." We dressed the silence with small motions. She dabbed away gel. I folded the envelope once, twice precise. When we stepped into the hallway, the clinic's soft music acted like nothing had happened. At the desk, Sam's nurse gave us the kind smile clinics save for couples who are supposed to be happy. We booked a follow-up we might not keep. Lexington was loud in the winter light. Yellow cabs, steam from a grate, a courier waltzing with 4 coffees. Claire hooked her arm through mine, gripped too tight, as if pressure could keep a shape from collapsing. "In a week," she said, already assembling contingency plans, "we'll go to that Tribeca place Nina loves. They have the chandelier. The photos are clearer there. You'll see." I unlocked the car. We sat in the quiet. "Do you remember where we were 23 weeks ago?" I asked, almost conversational, like traders do when they lob a number to see who flinches. She stared straight ahead. "We were busy." I said. "I was on planes." She closed her eyes. "Lester." "Not now," I said, and I didn't raise my voice. It somehow sounded louder. On the drive home, the city moved like always. Runners in the park. A man walking a dog in a sweater it didn't need. Claire stopped talking 2 lights after we turned. I didn't press. The math was already writing itself in permanent ink. We passed a billboard that promised certainty in 5 steps. I almost laughed. At the apartment, the doorman greeted us by name. The elevator mirrors reflected a couple who looked like a magazine ad. We stepped into curated air, eucalyptus and vanilla, a candle that had cost more than dinner. Everything exactly where she'd placed it. Everything exactly wrong. I set the envelope on the counter. I didn't flip it over. I didn't need to see the numbers twice. Sam's slip had done its work. 23, not 15. 17 weeks to go. A truth that didn't need volume to be heard. The apartment smelled of eucalyptus and vanilla candles when we stepped in, the same scent Claire always claimed calmed her after long days in the studio. Tonight it only made the air feel artificial. She slipped off her coat, hung it neatly, then busied herself with the kettle as if hot tea could erase 23. Her back was too straight. Shoulders too stiff. That kind of posture never lies. "Machines are wrong all the time," she said over the rush of water. "You remember that blood panel mix-up last year? You came home furious because the lab had sent you someone else's cholesterol numbers." I took off my jacket, folded it once, placed it over the chair back. That was a clerical error. This was a biometric scan. She set the kettle down harder than she meant to. The sound echoed against marble. Then maybe Sam just, I don't know, misread something. "You two were talking. You distracted him." "Sam doesn't misread," I said evenly. "He slipped, yes. But his slip came from familiarity, not confusion. He remembered me telling him 15 weeks. He compared it to the screen. The gap wasn't small." Claire turned, tea towel clutched too tightly. "You're making it sound like some courtroom exhibit." "That's because it will be," I answered quietly. Her eyes widened. "You're serious. Lester, come on. It's me. We've wanted this. We've talked about starting a family for years. This is it, our chance. Don't ruin it because of math." I almost laughed, but the sound died before it reached my throat. "Math is what keeps bridges standing, Claire. It's what tells pilots when they'll land. It's what keeps your industry from over-promising and under-delivering. And it's what tells me I was in London 23 weeks ago, not here." She swallowed hard. Her hand trembled against the counter. "So what, you're accusing me of what? Sneaking around like some cliché?" I didn't answer. I wanted to see what word she would reach for when the silence stretched. She filled it with too many. Maybe my cycle was off. Maybe I ovulated earlier. Maybe. By 8 weeks. I finally cut in. "Claire, biology isn't that elastic." Her breath hitched. She looked away, eyes darting to the window as though the skyline could rescue her. Down below, Manhattan carried on, horns, footsteps, a siren in the distance. Life continuing, indifferent to ours. Then we'll get a second opinion, she said suddenly, her voice pitched too high. Tribeca. Nina swears by that clinic. Their photos are crystal clear. We'll book tomorrow. You'll see. I nodded slowly. Fine. We'll go. But it won't change the numbers. Silence filled the room again. Heavy, buzzing. I poured myself a glass of water, each clink of ice in the glass sounding like punctuation marks between us. Finally, I asked, "Who is he?" Her head whipped toward me. The glass she was reaching for slipped, hit the counter edge, and shattered across the floor. "What did you just say?" "You heard me." Claire's hands trembled as she bent to gather shards, her voice trembling with them. "That's insane. Trevor from down the hall helps with packages sometimes, sure. And Marco from the studio drives me after fittings. But a lover? Lester, that's absurd." She wasn't naming names, she was throwing smoke. I'd seen that tactic 100 times in boardrooms when CEOs tried to redirect attention. Name every possibility except the right one. I crouched, picking up glass beside her. I've spent 20 years spotting misdirection in quarterly reports. You think I can't see it at my own table? Her eyes glistened, desperate. "I love you. Whatever the dates say, I love you. Isn't that what matters?" I stood, dropped the shards into the trash. Love doesn't change a timeline. And timelines don't lie. She broke then, silent tears running, her body folding against the counter. I almost reached out, but stopped. Compassion doesn't erase betrayal. Upstairs, I packed a small bag. Just a change of clothes, my laptop, the envelope with the scans. Claire's voice followed me up the stairs, rising with every word. "Don't do this. Lester, you're being paranoid. We can fix this, we can figure it out. Please, don't walk away." I zipped the bag. The sound was final, like a door slamming shut. At the bedroom doorway, I turned. "This isn't paranoia, Claire. This is arithmetic." And with that, I walked out into the Manhattan night, a city that always keeps its own books balanced, no matter the cost. The motel room smelled of bleach and old carpet, but I'd slept in worse. Numbers and facts don't care about thread count. I laid the envelope with the ultrasound prints on the desk, sat in the creaking chair, and opened my laptop. At 7 a.m. sharp, I dialed Stephen Parker, former Army JAG, now one of Manhattan's sharpest family lawyers. We'd used him for our wills, and I trusted him in the way you trust a man who can recite statute like scripture. "Lester," he said after listening to me lay out the entire story. "I'm sorry, my friend, but the path is clear. Walk me through it." "Step 1, Stephen said, voice clipped, military neat. "DNA test. We establish paternity, or in this case, non-paternity. Step 2, document everything. Ultrasound reports, the doctor's statements, Claire's messages, receipts. Step 3, divorce proceedings. Infidelity tied to financial misconduct can change asset division in New York. But we'll need evidence she used marital resources to fund her affair." "Evidence won't be a problem," I murmured. "Then gather it. Quietly. And don't tip your hand until the moment counts." After the call, I sat still, staring at the cheap motel art, a watercolor skyline with no soul. My pulse was calm, the way it gets before markets open. This was just another ledger to balance. By noon, I was back at the apartment. Claire's car was gone. I entered with my key, walked straight to the office. The desk drawer she always kept locked wasn't. Inside, neat folders of bills, statements, and receipts, the story of our life written in numbers. I started reading. A hotel in Tribeca. Twice. Dinner charges at restaurants I'd never set foot in. Boutique men's clothing. Not my size, not my taste. Every receipt was a shard of glass, cutting silently, cleanly. Then I saw his name. Ethan Ward. Freelance photographer. 29. He'd shot Claire's spring campaign last year. I remembered shaking his hand at the launch party, his grip too firm, his smile too long on Claire. The charges lined up like an earnings chart. Hotels on weekends, I was traveling. Meals billed after her late studio nights. My wife's headaches had a pattern, and the ledger told me exactly when they began. The front door opened downstairs. Claire's voice floated in, false bright, calling my name. I slid the folders back, closed the drawer. She entered the office, eyes rimmed red. She froze when she saw me standing there. "What are you doing?" "Balancing the books," I said evenly. Her lips parted. She tried for outrage but landed in fear. "You went through my things?" "I went through our things. Marital property, community assets, which you converted into other investments." Tears welled fast. "It's not what you think. Ethan he was helping with my shows, helping you into hotel rooms?" I cut in. She flinched like I'd struck her. "Lester, please. I was lonely. You were always gone. You buried yourself in numbers and flights and you buried yourself in someone else's bed," I finished. My voice stayed calm. A line item on a balance sheet. She sobbed then, real and raw, but it washed over me like static. I'd heard CEOs cry when the market stripped them bare. Same sound. Same desperation. "I love you," she whispered. "This doesn't have to end us. We can move past it. The baby needs you." I picked up the envelope from the desk. Slid the ultrasound print halfway out. "The baby has a father," I said. "But it isn't me." Her knees buckled. She collapsed onto the chair. I walked past her, bag in hand. "Get comfortable, Claire. Because the numbers are about to speak louder than you ever could." The elevator ride down was silent, except for the echo of my own words. Numbers don't lie. People do. And I had all the proof I needed. The clinic in Midtown was sterile in the way numbers are, clean, cold, undeniable. I rolled up my sleeve, watched the nurse draw my blood, then slid the consent form back across the counter. "DNA test in process." In 2 weeks, a paper would confirm what arithmetic already had. I was not the father. Stephen Parker, my lawyer, was waiting for me outside. Ex-military bearing, suit pressed sharp. We walked down the block, his voice low but direct. "Divorce proceedings will be straightforward once we have the paternity test. With evidence of infidelity and misappropriation of funds, Claire's leverage evaporates. You'll keep the apartment, the joint accounts. She may fight, but we'll have receipts." "Literally." "She's already unraveling," I said. "She'll scramble for sympathy. Tears, confusion, excuses." "Good," Stephen replied. "Desperation makes mistakes. Mistakes make evidence." We stopped at a crosswalk. Yellow taxis honked, a courier balanced 4 coffees, the city's rhythm unbroken. My world had cracked, but Manhattan didn't blink. That night, I returned to the apartment. Claire was waiting, mascara smudged, a silk robe tied too tight, as if appearance could still control perception. "You didn't come home last night," she began, voice trembling. "People will talk. Do you want that?" "I don't care what people talk about," I said, setting my bag down. "I care about documents, timelines, and the truth." Her tears spilled instantly. "Lester, I was lonely. Ethan was a mistake. You don't understand what it's like being married to a man who's always gone, who lives in spreadsheets, who—" "You're right," I cut in. "I don't understand choosing betrayal over honesty. But what I do understand is that your mistake has a name, a face, and a trail of hotel receipts." Her breath caught. The name Ethan hadn't been spoken in this apartment until now. "You went through my things," she whispered. "Our things," I corrected. "And soon, a judge will go through them too." Her facade cracked then, her hands gripping the robe as though it could hold her together. "What will people say when they find out? My career, my reputation." "They'll say numbers don't lie," I answered. The next morning, I found Ethan myself. He was leaning against a cafe wall in Soho, camera slung carelessly around his neck, a cigarette dangling from his lips. 29, smug, the kind of arrogance you only get from thinking the world is yours because someone handed it to you. He looked up, smirk fading when he recognized me. Lester. I didn't expect. No, I interrupted. You didn't. But you should have. He straightened, tried to mask the shift in posture. Look, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, I said calmly. And soon, it'll be exactly what a court thinks. I have the records, the receipts, the timeline. The only thing missing is your name on a DNA test. Which, by the way, I suggest you prepare for. Color drained from his face. He stubbed out his cigarette too fast. Claire said you wouldn't. Claire said a lot of things. I cut in again. None of them matter anymore. I leaned closer, kept my voice low, sharp. You thought this was just an affair. But when you tamper with a man's life, his marriage, his legacy, you're not stealing affection. You're stealing everything. And men like me don't let theft slide. He tried to laugh, but it came out thin. What do you want from me? Nothing, I said, straightening. The court will take care of the rest. Consider this your only courtesy warning. When I walked away, the city roared back to life around me. Ethan stayed frozen against the cafe wall, camera useless, hands shaking. Back at the motel, I opened my laptop, logged into the financial accounts Claire thought I didn't monitor closely. Transfers, withdrawals, charges. A clear trail. I forwarded them all to Stephen with one line, "The case builds itself." The counterattack had begun, and I hadn't raised my voice once. The courtroom was colder than the February wind outside. Marble floors, polished benches, a hum of whispers like trading chatter before a market crash. I adjusted my tie, laid the file in front of me, ultrasound scans, receipts, account statements. Numbers lined up like soldiers, ready to speak louder than I ever could. Claire walked in 3 minutes late. Her silk blouse was pressed, hair perfect, but her eyes betrayed her, rimmed red, heavy with nights of restless calculations that never added up. Behind her trailed Ethan, pale, suit ill-fitting, trying to look invisible in a place where invisibility wasn't possible. Judge Abrams entered. The room rose, then sat. My lawyer, Stephen Parker, opened first. Your Honor, this case is not simply a matter of marital discord. It is a matter of fraud, betrayal, and financial misconduct. The evidence will show Mrs. Hale conducted an extramarital affair, conceived a child with another man, and used marital funds to support that relationship. My client, Mr. Hale, seeks dissolution of marriage, division of property in his favor, and full legal detachment from the child. Claire flinched at that last word, detachment. Her lips moved, a whisper only she heard, "The baby needs a father." The judge's gaze cut sharp. Proceed with evidence. Stephen handed up the ultrasound scans. The room quieted as Judge Abrams read the report. Gestational age, 23 weeks. Conception estimated 7 months prior. Then the receipts, hotels, restaurants, transfers. Each paper stacked neatly on the bench, each one a dagger delivered with the precision of an accountant closing a fiscal year. Finally, the DNA test. The envelope sealed, notarized, opened slowly. The silence was unbearable. The words, when read aloud, were final. Probability of paternity, 0%. Claire's sob broke the quiet like glass underfoot. Ethan lowered his head into his hands, shoulders shaking. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Hale, do you contest these findings? Her voice cracked. It's not fair. He was never home. He buried himself in work, in flights, in numbers. Answer the question, the judge said flatly. Claire's eyes darted around the room, to me, to Ethan, to anyone who might offer her a lifeline. None came. No, she whispered. Stephen closed the file. No further argument, Your Honor. The ruling was swift. The apartment, joint accounts, investments, all retained by me. Claire's share reduced. Legal custody of the unborn child severed. The record would show I had no obligation to support what wasn't mine. As the gavel struck, Claire crumpled. Ethan didn't move to help her. He stared at the floor, jaw clenched, trapped in his own ruin. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and gathered the file. Each paper slid neatly into place, like balance restored. Outside the courthouse, cameras waited, not for us, but for another case. Manhattan bustled, indifferent. That's the thing about this city. It never pauses for your collapse. Claire followed me down the steps, her voice ragged. Lester, please. We can start over. Forget the documents. Forget the math. I still love you. I stopped, turned, looked her straight in the eye. You tried to make me believe a lie, I said. But numbers don't bend, Claire. And love without truth is nothing but debt. And I don't carry debt. Her face crumpled again. She stumbled back toward Ethan, but he didn't extend a hand. I walked to the curb, hailed a cab, and stepped in without looking back. As the city blurred past the window, I exhaled. The weight in my chest wasn't gone, but it was balanced. Ledger closed. The apartment felt different when I stepped inside again. Same walls, same furniture, same curated scents, eucalyptus and vanilla, but stripped of illusion. A home is not a home once the truth has moved in. Claire was there, sitting on the couch, her robe loose, eyes hollow. Ethan wasn't with her. His absence spoke louder than his presence ever had. She looked up at me with that broken smile people wear when they know the verdict but beg for appeal. He left, she whispered. After court. He said he couldn't handle the pressure. He said the baby wasn't his responsibility either. I set my briefcase down. Seems truth makes cowards of some men. Tears streamed, but they no longer stirred me. She had gambled on a lie and lost. Numbers had stripped her bare, and Ethan had abandoned her before the ink was even dry. Lester, please, she said, reaching toward me with trembling hands. I don't care what the documents say. I don't care what the judge said. I love you. The baby needs you. We can rebuild. We can. I stepped back. The baby has a father. But it isn't me. And what we had was built on trust. Without it, there is nothing to rebuild. She crumpled into sobs. The sound echoed in the apartment like a failed negotiation, like a business deal collapsed under its own lies. I walked past her, into my office. I took down the framed photo of us at our wedding, 3 years younger, smiling, believing in futures that no longer existed. I placed it face down in the drawer. Then I opened a fresh ledger book, clean white pages waiting. My new life would start here, balanced from day one. That night, I packed the last of my things and left the apartment for good. The doorman didn't ask questions. He never does. Manhattan swirled outside, alive, uncaring, a city that devours lies as quickly as it builds new dreams. In the cab, as the city lights smeared across the window, I felt a strange calm settle in. Not victory, not even satisfaction. Just balance. A debt repaid, an account closed. The numbers had spoken. The lie was over. And now, my life was mine again. If you were in my shoes, if you sat in that clinic and heard the doctor's voice tremble, saw the weeks not line up, watched your partner's lies collapse in real time, what would you do? Would you walk away like I did, ledger closed? Or would you stay and try to rebuild on broken trust? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where betrayal meets justice, and lies are balanced by truth.